Hello. Good morning or good afternoon, wherever you are. Nice to see you here. My name's Jo and I'm from SLC and I am doing a live Q&A for you today. So any questions you have regarding the OET, please do let me know in the comments. So let me know, first of all, where you are. Who are you? Where are you? And are you taking the exam soon? Let me know in the comments below. Right, I'm just checking. I believe we're not live on Facebook. Bear with me 1 minute. That's okay. Let's try again. Bear with me 1 second. Oh, and now everything's gone. Okay. Oh. Okay. Hopefully you're still here with me on YouTube. Great. Okay, so any questions you have, please let me know in the comments in the bottom of YouTube, and I will aim to answer your questions on today's session. Right, so we have a few questions here. We've got Malil Kujun. Hi, Malil Kujun. Nice to see you here today. We've got a very good question about how can I improve my reading part B and C? Well, there's a few ways that you could improve your reading B. And C and even A is reading a lot. So the one thing that I say to my students is if you want to improve reading, read. If you want to improve speaking, speak. So there are two things you need to do. One is you need to learn the format of the exam. So you can go on the OET website and you can find sample papers on each of the exams, each of the papers. And another thing you can do is learn the strategy. So there are some things available on the OET website, or you can look on our YouTube channel, which you're on now, OET SLC. And we've got lots of videos on strategies. So if you go to the playlists and find the reading playlists, there is a good source of strategy videos there. The other thing you need to do in order to improve reading is to just read a wide variety of general medical topics. Okay, so that means reading a wide variety of online resources. So we do have another question here from Nico. Hi, Nico, who's also asking about reading C. So one of the most difficult things about reading C is understanding academic style medical topics that usually have quite complex language, and you need to do this within a time frame. So my biggest recommendation for improving reading C is read as much as possible these kinds of texts. Websites like The Guardian Health or theconversation.com, these are really good resources of this. Also, of course, doing OET practice papers. Once you finish doing the reading C, then read through the text again and notice the language that's been used. So some things that you can do with the OET texts and also with resources or articles from theconversation.com would be to read the article and summarize what's the writer's overall viewpoint. Then you could also look at each individual paragraph and summarize the main idea in each paragraph, because that's the skill you need in order to be successful in reading C. Once you understand the paragraph, you can then answer the question. Another thing you can do is notice language of opinion and attitude. So this is really, really important. So language of opinion and attitude, he believes, in my opinion, they hinted that, a common refrain among scientists is. So all that kind of language comes up time and time again in reading C. So the more you know how these kinds of views are expressed, the easier it is. The other thing you can do to improve reading C is improve your knowledge of referencing. So remember, there's always the question about what does the word this or it refer to? So in any article, you can find a word this or it, for example, and look at the paragraph and work out what does the word refer to practice doing this quickly so that when you come to the exam, you're really confident in doing it. Yeah? The other thing, of course, is using the right strategies for reading C. So, Nico, you said it's extremely challenging. So, how do you tackle it? So, I would say the first thing you need to do, look at the title, activate your knowledge, number the paragraphs. If you number the paragraphs, just write 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 next to the paragraphs. You know where to look because, of course, each question says in paragraph 2, in paragraph 4. Okay, so that's the first thing you do. Then read the question. What is it asking you? Make sure you understand the question. And if it's not a question, think about turning it into a question. Yeah. So sometimes you just have a sentence stem. Try turning it into a question. Then I would suggest reading the paragraph and try and find the answer to the question yourself. Understand the whole paragraph, break it into units of meaning, so every couple of sentences, what's the writer saying? Once you understand the paragraph, then look at the options, underline keywords, notice the differences between them, and then eliminate quickly any obviously wrong answers. I know it's not A, I know it's not D. And then if you're left with 2 or 3 options, you can then go back to the question and say, which one is really answering the question? Remember, all the options might be mentioned, but only one of them will answer the question. Okay, so that's my recommended strategy for reading part C. Some people like to read the options before you read the text and then go back to the options afterwards. That's fine if it works for you. Other people find that a little bit time consuming because then you need to read the options twice. And remember, you've got limited time. Okay, so we've got some other questions coming in here. Varuni, hi Varuni, she's asking, how can I improve my listening skills? Well, that's a very good question. As I said before, like with reading, if you want to improve listening, listen. So you need to improve, for listening C, your ability to understand long audios on a range of medical topics, and you need to be able to identify attitude and opinion. So whenever you do a practice paper, always listen again and use it to identify phrases that do demonstrate attitude and opinion. And I think also listening or watching a variety of maybe TED Med talks or healthcare podcasts. If you're in the UK, the BBC podcast, BBC Health is a good one. I think that's only available in the UK. If you're not, online, you can get the ABC Health Matters. This is an Australian podcast. That's a good one to use. So just listen as much as possible. I think you can probably download them when you have Wi-Fi to your phone. Listen to them while you're walking to work, on the bus, whatever. The more you listen, the better you become. Also using the right strategies for all the listening papers. And the most important strategy, or the most important thing for A, B, and C, is using the pre-listening time effectively. So in part A, you have 30 seconds to read the notes. In part B, you have about 15 seconds to read the question and options. And in part C, you have 90 seconds for each extract to read all 6 questions and options. So make sure you know what that time feels like so you know how fast to go. Really, really important. And as you're reading, for all parts, you want to be underlining keywords if that helps you. Notice, what are you listening for? So in part A, what kind of words are you listening for? In part B, what's the question asking you? Again, in part C, what's the question asking you? And also for particularly for part A and part C, the pre-reading time can really help you know the structure. What's the order of the audio? So that will really help you not get lost. Okay. Right. I have got a very interesting question from Dr. Sajid Malik. Hi, Dr. Sajid. Very interesting question that many people want to know the answer to, and it's how can I pass OET in the first attempt? I would say making sure you don't book the test too early. So you want to make sure that you're confident that you're going to pass the exam. So several things, make sure you're the right level. Okay, so the OET exam, you need to get a C1 advanced high level of English. So making sure that you're at least a B2 level when you're starting your preparation, because it's very complex language. So make sure your English proficiency is high enough. That's the first thing, okay? The other thing would be making sure you know the exam inside out. What does it look like? How long is each part? What are the strategies to use? And make sure you use those strategies. And the third thing is improve your skills for all the papers. So improve your reading skills by reading a variety of resources, speak a lot in English, listen a lot in English, practice writing, work on your grammar, things like that. So it's threefold. It's high level of English, improve your skills, know the exam and the strategies. And then when you're confident, book the exam. What you don't want to be doing is book the exam, take it, fail, then book it straight away, and then fail again, and then book the exam straight away. What you really need to do is put in the work before you book the test, okay? And make sure you know these strategies, okay? Okay, and hello, Sundari. A nice thank you from Sundari to SLC. And Alexia, one of our teachers, as you made it to the UK. Well, I'm very pleased to hear about your OET success. Sorry, Sundari. Great. Okay. You're welcome, Nico. Okay, we have a question from Martha. Hi, Martha. She's asking, do you have a free website where we can find practice tests on all the modules? I do understand OET provides some pre-practice tests, but they are limited. Of course, they are very limited, which is why we say to improve your skills using a variety of resources as well. Not just practice papers, because it's all, and then you can save the practice papers for implementing the strategies. So the OET website really is the best website to use in terms of practice papers. We also have some practice tests that are available to buy on our website, specialistlanguagecourses.com. So these are all digital and you get immediate feedback on your reading and listening. And you get to do a practice test with a teacher and get full writing feedback. Do be careful of all the resources that are available online. There are lots and lots saying, pass your OET first time, here, buy 100 practice tests for $10. If it sounds too good to be true, it probably is too good to be true. So there are a lot of resources where there's like loads and loads and loads and loads of practice tests, and they're not official practice tests. They're not exactly like the exam, and they will give you, excuse me, a full sense of confidence for the exam. Okay. Right, we have some more questions here. So, great to see people from everywhere. We've got Aid or Ade from Nigeria. Hi. And we've got Sapana from Nepal. Lovely to see you here today. And we've got a question from Sonia. Can you please tell me how to write the letter, because I always get a bad score? So the thing with the OET letter is I'm not sure if you're doing medicine or nursing, Sonia, but the way that you approach it is the same. So you have the 5 minutes reading time and you can't write in that time. So the first thing that you need to do for this during the reading time is have a read through the case notes. I would suggest look at any notes that are at the top and the task that's at the bottom, because that's going to tell you who you are, who you're writing to, and why you're writing. Do you need to request ongoing care? Do you need to ask for assessment and management of a patient? And once you have that information clear, and if there's an existing relationship, does the reader know the patient, for example? Once you know that, then have a read through the case notes. Get a general sense of the patient's story and start thinking about, what happened to this patient? What's relevant to what I'm going to ask the reader to do? Excuse me. The 5 minutes time is probably then going to finish and they say, you can start writing now. I would say, don't start writing. Pause. Annotate the case notes. So you want to go through and just have a system, whatever it is, whether it's underlining, star, a tick, something like that. Have a system for marking what information you think is relevant to include. So go through the case notes. What's relevant? What does the reader need to know? And if you're not sure, ask yourself, does the reader need to know this in order to carry out the action you're asking them to? For example, if you're asking the reader to do assessment of a patient and create a management plan, ask yourself, does the reader need this in order to do an assessment and management plan? If the answer is yes, include it. If the answer is no, don't include it. If you're not sure, include it. Okay, you don't want to and ah for 5 minutes going, oh, shall I include it? Shall I not include it? I don't know. Panic, panic, panic. And then you've run out of time. So if you're not sure, just include it, but make sure it doesn't have the main focus. Okay. Once you've decided what information you're going to include, make a plan. Time and time again, I've got students who take the exam and they come back and they're like, oh, I didn't do well in the writing. And it's just like, well, what kind of task did you have? How did you do it? Did you plan? No, I didn't plan. I started writing immediately after the 5 minutes reading time. I would say, and they said, I don't have time to plan. And my answer is, you don't have time not to plan. Just spend 5 minutes thinking about how you're going to organize it. So in paragraph 1, I'm going to express who the patient is, why I'm writing. And then I've got paragraph 2, where I might talk about background information or hospital treatment. And paragraph 3, I'm going to talk about discharge regarding wound care. And in paragraph 4, I'm going to talk about discharge action regarding mobility, for example. Have an idea, whether it's in your head or just a brief written paragraph plan, or write numbers next to the notes that you selected. Because if you know what you're going to include, what order you're going to include it in, then all you need to think about is how to write it. And you just write it using clear language. Always keep 5 minutes to check as well at the end. Check you've included all the relevant information. Check that you've used appropriate grammar. Check for your errors. Okay, so I think this is really important as well. Save time for checking. And I think while you're doing your OET preparation, make sure that you don't just do writing practice papers. I think it's also important to work on your grammar and vocabulary. I think that's really, really key as well, because although minor errors are allowed, you want to be as accurate as possible so the message is clear for the reader. Okay, so let's have a little look. So we've got some more questions here. Okie dokie. Got a question from Oh, hi, Rana. That's very nice to hear that you're following our videos. We love to hear that. Thank you. I have another question from Martha. What are the chances of improvement after requesting a remark in writing? Your guess is as good as mine. I have had some cases where a candidate has got a higher remark, but I also have come across candidates who've got no change in a remark and also a lower remark. However, if you perhaps get 10 points under what you need in order to register, then if you can afford it, I would say it would be worth remarking if it's only that one paper. You never know, but you must be prepared for the fact that it might not go up. Okay. So do be prepared for that. Okay. I have another question from Nico. How do you overcome the challenge of time management in the OET reading? A very interesting question. For reading A, you only have 15 minutes and 20 questions. So that's less than 1 minute per question. So I would say for part A, do the matching task first, very, very quickly, without looking at the text. In fact, don't even read the text at all for part A. You don't need to. It's testing your ability to find information fast, not read for detail. That's part B and C. Then be very clear. Use the questions and sentences. What information are you looking for? What words and phrases will help you find the answer? Which text am I going to look in? Go and scan for the answer, write it down, move on to the next one. You've really got to go, 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 go with reading A. Excuse me. And for parts B and C, we'd recommend about 12 minutes for part B and then about 33-ish minutes for part C. Okay, you've really got to go quite quickly. It's about 2 minutes per question. Practice, I would say start doing it in maybe an hour for parts B and C, and then gradually increase or decrease the time you do it in. I think reading a lot will really help with that. Practice speed reading as much as possible. Okay. And then we have some questions for just having a look at the questions here. Question from Rana. Could you please give me some tips for OET speaking roleplay card because I'm not able to get above a grade C every time? Excuse me. I think for speaking, practicing your speaking is very important. Record yourself when you're doing practice role plays. I think then you can listen and evaluate, improving your general English, your grammar, vocabulary, and things like that. When you're doing the preparation time, focus on the task cards. What tasks are you being asked? Think of useful language that you could use to explain those tasks. And then when you do the role play, use that language and the information on the role card. So don't go off topic, use the information provided on the role card. And keep the explanations short and simple. So you want to be given 2 to 3 pieces of information before you stop and check. If it's explain, make sure you use signposting phrases and linking expressions, and then stop and check once you've finished your explanation. So, for example, maybe you have to explain what asthma is, and you say to the patient, signpost first. Okay, let me explain a little bit more about asthma. Okay, so asthma is a long-term condition of the airways, and it can make it more difficult for you to breathe. And often patients have asthma attacks where they really, really struggle to breathe, like the one that you had yesterday. Okay. Now, there are several causes of asthma. Some of these are, okay, so you keep it short and sweet like that. Also, making sure that your OET really want you to encourage the patient to respond, really explore their concerns and expectations and ideas. So, if a patient comes, oh, I want to know a bit more about asthma, you say, okay, is there anything you're particularly concerned about your new diagnosis? That way, you give the patient the information they need to know and the information that they want to know. You relate your explanations to their concerns. So I think that's very, very important to explore their concerns and encourage them to respond. For example, if you explain what treatment's going to happen afterwards, you could say something like, is that all right? How does that sound? Or how do you feel about that? If you're giving recommendations on lifestyle changes, so say, for example, you want someone to lose weight and do more exercise, you might say something like, okay, let me explain or let me give you some advice on how you can reduce your blood pressure. It's really a good idea that you increase your exercise. So try walking, 30 minutes a day if you can. And another thing is it's really important to reduce the amount of salty and fatty food that you eat. Do you think you'd be able to manage that? So pausing and checking. So not too much information in one go because it's too much to take in. The other thing I would recommend for OET speaking would be in the preparation time, make sure you're ready to start. There's no need to say, hi, I'm Dr. Jo. Nice to see you here. How may I address you? Okay, lovely to see you here. Just go straight in. Hi, I'm Dr. Jo. I'm the doctor at the clinic today. What brings you here today? Or if you like, ask them their name in the preparation time. Okay. A question about OET for pharmacy. Any good online resources? The OET website does have quite a lot of preparation. In terms of other places, I'm not really sure. But all reading and listening is relevant to pharmacy. All reading and listening is relevant to pharmacy. We actually do a pharmacy course on OET at SLC. So if you're interested, do email us. You can get the email on our website. It's SLC specialistlanguagecourses.com. I believe there is a book out written by Cathalation. That's also quite good. That's just practice tests though. So do contact us if you are interested in any one-to-one tuition. That's okay. All right. I have a question from Martha about part A. Which part do you recommend to start with to be able to answer more questions? Absolutely, I would recommend the matching task because it's the easiest and the quickest, and that way you've got 7 questions done and then carry on. Some people recommend, some people have tried doing it last, but then if you run out of time, you've missed 7 easy questions. Also, if you do the matching task, it gives you a bit more insight as to, the kind of information in the other texts. Okay. Excuse me. And just one more question here from Tamisha. Hi, Tamisha. May I know how to improve listening skills, and can you give me some resources for podcasts with transcripts? Excuse me. I would say improving your listening skills, listening a lot, listening for attitude and opinion for reading C. I would say on YouTube, there's the CSA videos. It's Matthew Smith's YouTube channel. And these are consultations. And I think if you do closed captions, you get sort of subtitles as well, which you can listen to afterwards. They're not always 100% correct, though, so do be careful. But they're really good for listening to doctor-patient consultations. And you can, listen for symptoms, treatment, things that they discuss. So doing note taking, making notes on things like that. Also listening to a wide variety of podcasts. So as I said, BBC Health. I don't think majority of those don't have transcripts. I think ABC Health does. So the ABC Health podcast, it's an Australian one. I think those have transcripts attached to them. TED Med, you can usually get hold of the transcripts or do the subtitles on their website. So that's also, but try listening without the transcripts first, because you want to train your ears, not your eyes. You can always listen again afterwards with the transcripts. Okay. And this is something that you should absolutely always do after you've done any listening practice test. Always listen again with the transcript and analyze for language and analyze for signposting. So signposting is a key part of the listening paper. So signposting is simply the speaker telling you, that the answer is coming up, or that they're going to talk about something. So in speaking, you do signposting by saying something like, let me explain a little bit more about how to manage your wound. Yeah, you're signposting to the listener that you're going to explain this topic now. So in the OET listening, this is something that you need to listen out for. So you can practice doing that and practice identifying it. Okay. One more question. Martha's asking about how much do you have to score in all modules to get a B band? We don't know for sure. There's a very complicated algorithm that OET use, so we never know for sure. But for reading and listening, I think if you're consistently getting 30 out of 42, or is it 30? If you're consistently getting 30 and above, I would say you stand a good chance of getting a B in the exam. Yeah, so you want to be getting at least, let me just double check that. Excuse me. Yeah, so you want to be getting at least 30 points, 30 out of 42, and this will give you an average of 70%. We don't know for sure. Sometimes it might be more, sometimes it might be less, but I think if you're consistently getting these scores in reading and listening, then you've got a good chance of getting a B. Speaking and writing, you want to be getting 5s, band 5s and above, and for the clinical communication criteria, 2s and 3s. Okay, I'm afraid that's all I've got time for today, but we will be back next month at the end of April, so 26th of April, the last Wednesday of every month. Excuse me. Lovely to see you all here today. Good luck with your OET preparation, and I'll see you next time. Bye, everybody.